Welcome back to the channel. Shout out to Jeff St. James. He had another phenomenal conversation with a woman named Tess Pereira. She was a female psychologist who has some very questionable things to say about dating and relationships, and we're going to break it down. Kevin Samuels used to talk about all the time how you should be wary about a lot of female therapists, even though he promoted therapy a lot and thought that it was something that people should utilize. He cautioned men around female therapists, and he also cautioned women around dealing with female therapists because of a lot of things you're getting ready to hear during this exchange that we're going to react to. This was disturbing. She wasn't necessarily combative or hostile in her nature, but the things that she had to say proved that a lot of these therapists are just as jaded as a lot of these modern women out here who are walking around without credentials and without these psychology degrees and have booked thousands of hours of sessions with people and helping people with their life. We're going to get into it. Hit the subscribe button, also hit the notification bell. Let's not waste 1 minute.
Our friends. That is that truly matters. But unfortunately, that is not what is being assessed in the vetting process.
Yeah, one of the things that you said that kind of stood out to me was earlier on when you mentioned women sometimes can make behaviors and things mean something that they don't, right? And one of the things that I'm realizing a lot of ladies tend to struggle with, and they talk a lot about being ghosted, particularly after they have sex with a guy. And they're like, all these guys are a-holes. They just use us and this or that. And it's true. There are men that just want sex, right? There's just men that just want recreational activities and just to have fun. There's also men that I think, for what you're saying, they're in the one of two buckets of seeing where this goes, or she's the one. They actually have that intention. They have that mindset, but then they get to know her. And unlike oftentimes, maybe the ladies are a little bit better when it comes to how they go about rejecting. I don't think a lot of men are great at actually rejecting women. They tend to if they're going to do it, they kind of just ghost. They kind of just disappear. They kind of don't want the confrontational approach. And one of the things that I think ladies may have to consider is, if you have a long series of this type of thing happening, there is a potential, and it's going to sound harsh what I'm about to say, and I definitely want to know what you say in response to this. What if some of the men that kind of leave after they've had sex, it's because they found out that was the best quality that you had to offer? They found out what you like. They found out what your values were. They found out how you really speak and how you carry yourself. They imagined what you would be like by their side in life, and the type of mother or partner you'd be. And once they kind of weighed all those things, and they was like, the sex is honestly the best thing about her, and everything else is kind of downhill from there. That sometimes kind of happens. And believe it or not, the percentage of men that's just having sex and running through all these women is not nearly the percentage of men that I'm kind of describing. So what are your thoughts about that in terms of like people ghosting each other, or men in particular ghosting for this reason? Do you think there's something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, firstly, ghosting is very disrespectful from either party. And I think it's really important for the person who has been ghosted. It's not their fault that they're being ghosted. Everybody deserves closure. Everybody deserves a reason why someone isn't aligned or liking them. Unfortunately, we are in a day of age where people are seen as commodities. They can use them and leave them and discard them, and that is unfair. However, here we are. So
despite of how people are viewed as today, that's been true every single day that men have had the opportunity to be involved with each other, and every time in history. That risk has always been there. Nothing's changed just because we might be viewing it different, or our view of it has evolved. Let's continue.
Of why people ghost, men ghost, it's because of their communication. It's because they don't want to be in a conflict with that person, or actually to be held accountable. So to the point of, there are a lot of men who just want to have sex. Fair, right? And we know, Jeff, that men can spin. They can make a woman feel great and make her feel that she's the one, because his intention is to get in her pants
I don't think she was listening to anything that Jeff said when he was talking about that. Sometimes men get the box and then we realize that was all you had to offer. And maybe the vibe was good initially, but after we got a feel for you over time, we just realized that that's the best thing you have going, and that's not good enough to withstand us long term. I think one of the biggest mistakes that women make is thinking that because guys are so visual and sexual, that that's the only place we make our long term decisions.
All right, I mean, maybe in the barbershop, right? You might have heard about that, right? Certainly, there are individuals who can do that. And women, all right, women want to hear all these lovely things because they then start imagining. And men know that women want that. And men also know once they have, you know, their way, or they do what they want with that woman, he can actually disregard her because they feel that she's too accessible, maybe, and also that they're not really interested. Now, this is where women need to make a choice, and they need to have all the information. Just because someone is saying something to you doesn't necessarily mean that he is intentional and he means it. By which I mean, you have to see the action before the action. How much effort is he putting in? Is he working towards you? And, you know, to the point of, you know, you said that some women might just have that as a positive attribute and not anything else. You as a man will know that what you want to feel from your woman is respected and appreciated and peace. Okay, so this guy could have this connection with this lady, and then if she brings her drama into his life and he doesn't want that, and he feels disrespected and unappreciated, he is going to take a step back, and he is going to say no thank you. And I think this is something that women need to also understand. In the same way, women want to they want to feel protected, and they want to feel safe. And they want to know that what they say is also going to be listened to and understood. So what a lot of men do is say yes, 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 and there's no follow through, and there's no clarity for a woman. Women need clarity. Men have clarity in what they want and what they need. Women also need to be part of that clarity. So it is really, really important for a man to clearly share what it is that he wants from her. But again, we're in a commodity type transactional world where, you know, I will get this and she will get that, and so on and so forth. And then the communication is really poor. I have had couples that I've worked with, and have you heard of the 7 year itch? Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Right. So they come and speak with me, and then I ask them questions about, you know, deep questions about each other, and they really don't know each other because they've been living on the surface for such a long time. So in order to have a fulfilling and great relationship, we need to ask the deep questions from the get-go to see if you're truly aligned. You need to talk about children. You need to talk about finances. You need to talk about what does retirement look like. I mean, when you're 20, this means, you know, that's so far away. But is it? If this is your forever person, teaching.
Okay, that's certainly a red flag. Forever person. It was little terms like this that she started to say to where I started to realize we were dealing with just basically a modern woman. And she might have the badge of a therapist or a psychologist, but this is going to prove today that just because somebody has that title, that doesn't mean that they're not delusional out here, just like every other woman. Can be biased, jaded.
30s and 40s, that we need to also future-proof. You know, this person could be lovely and all that kind of stuff, but if he wants to stay in a particular place and doesn't want to move, and that's going to be where he wants to retire and die, and you want to travel the world, even though he's attractive and he's got money and he's lovely, is that going to work for you long term?
Yeah.
And sometimes women, they kind of go, yeah, it'd be fine, until it isn't. Finances. You need to talk about what does retirement look like. I mean, when you're 20, this means, you know, that's so far away. But is it? If this is your forever person, we need to be coaching. We need to be teaching our younger people, even the ladies, gents in our 30s and 40s, that we need to also future-proof. You know, this person could be lovely and all that kind of stuff, but if he wants to stay in a particular place and doesn't want to move, and that's going to be where he wants to retire and die, and you want to travel the world, even though he's attractive and he's got money and he's lovely, is that going to work for you long term?
You must be the stupidest son of a bitch alive.
If a woman wants to be with a man who is already set and he's got good money, he looks good, he's attractive, and he wants to stay in his hometown, that if that's a problem for the woman, that she would be justified in leaving a good man because she wants to travel the world. Lady, are you out of your damn mind? What are you talking about? This isn't good advice. You women are putting traveling and living your own independent lives over stability. That's not smart, and really survival in most cases. It's not just stability, it's survival in most cases for you women. So let's get back into it.
All right, go ahead. Continue.
Interesting.
I was going to say, at age 40, there comes a time when a woman is like, that she assesses, she may have had her children, and she looks at her guy and say, no, I don't want this for myself. Because they perhaps settled, because the husband or the partner is a really good father, but not a really good husband for her.
I got to walk it off. I got to walk it off. I got to walk it off. I'm mad as hell. Don't.
So if he's a good father but not a good husband to you, you settle. So damn what your kids get. It's all about what you get. When you start listening to modern women speak, it becomes so apparent that all they care about is themselves. It's very difficult for them to think in like a team mind frame. Even if you're talking about kids, they're not thinking about the kids.
Let me help with the doggone kids.
Kids are gone. So we've cleared certain milestones, and now people are having these epiphanies. This is actually probably a huge reason of why marriage is not really appealing in the States. I don't know what it's like out where you are, but for the male side, I've noticed that a lot of men are saying and screaming, they can say that at any time. They can change their mind. The oath, the commitment doesn't actually matter, because I think men's perspectives are women's words when it comes to long-term commitment. They're starting to I think believe that it's really just based on how she feels in a particular season. Are men's concerns warranted, or is there more to that they're probably missing?
I think it's two sides to the coin. I love love. I believe in the institution of marriage. I truly do. But I also believe that if something isn't working for you, it's because it broke down well before a woman walks out. Right? And it's often because they feel unseen in a relationship.
Wait a second. How in the world could you possibly know that? I mean, I'm assuming you've spoken to a lot of women who might have been in that specific circumstance. But again, every time we bring up the fact that 80% of the divorces are initiated by women, you modern women go, well, what did the men do? What was she going through? It couldn't have been that she just left because she just decided that she wanted to choose her and do her own thing, and she doesn't value the man anymore. Or maybe she started making more money than him, and then that started to make her look at him in a different way, which is something that we see happen. Because as we see a woman's income go above her man, we usually start to see the divorce rate go up. When the woman starts to out-earn the man, the likelihood for divorce goes up. It doesn't go down.
And taken for granted. So there's a lot of unseen labor that men and women do. By which I mean, men typically don't notice or do not appreciate in the way that a woman needs what she does to look after the kingdom in his absence, take care of the kids, make sure they're bathed and fed and all of that kind of stuff, and then also having a career. And from a male perspective, he might feel like, well, she doesn't really pay any attention to me because she's always focused on the kid.
I'm gonna keep my spirit up, because I'm not about to even involve myself in no dumb stuff like that.
Okay, I think that this is still more signs of her just being biased against men. Now, the only example that she brought up about like men being upset in a marriage is something where the guy looks ridiculous and he's obnoxious. His complaint is obnoxious, of course. His complaint is like, oh, she's not showing enough attention to me because she's spending time with our baby, and I'm mad because I want her to be over here with me, and all she wants to do is spend time with our kid. Are you crazy, lady? You think that's what guys are in marriages thinking? I'm so mad that my woman is being a good mother instead of coming over here and getting down on these balls. It's like, I can't believe that I can't believe you're a professional therapist. Let's get back into it.
And women remember how they feel or how they have been made to feel. And if they feel jarred and then it's built upon by what he says and how he behaves, then women carry that. For what do you know what the opposite of love is?
It's apathy.
Indifference. Apathy.
Yeah, apathy. Yeah.
Yeah. So for a woman to become indifferent, i.e., checked out, right? A lot has to happen. Whereas a man, if he wants to check out, it's like, no, this isn't working. He doesn't consider as much as like, no, I don't want it, and he's out. Women, especially women with children or have a family, they have to consider so many things before they say they want to exit.
Are you crazy, lady? So we got an 80% divorce rate, right? 8 out of 10 women leave their men and then only 2 out of 10 men leave the marriage. And you're saying that all of those women, in so many regards, fit the example you're talking about. I don't know. This seems like a bit of a reach to me, but let's continue the clip.
Their partner, their husband, so many chances for them to redeem themselves, for them to kind of move away from the door to leave. And if men don't see the signs, then they're like, why did she leave? It's her season, it's it's her mood. It's not. A lot goes into the decision-making process for a woman to leave. And it's often because she feels that she hasn't got clarity and she's not being led by her man. Right? If we look at masculine and feminine energy, I look at it in either a container or a riverbank, right? A man is meant to be a riverbank and a woman is meant to flow. He's meant to provide a structure and guidance for her to kind of flow. Right? And they meet and they consider, and then he might go, okay, I'm going to change the riverbank here. And she'll be like, yeah, great idea. But also maybe consider that side. So there's a collaboration. Really difficult for men and women in that situation if they don't communicate. And the communication starts from the infancy of a relationship. If you're just talking about, let's go to this restaurant, oh, I like this, or can you buy me this, or shall we have sex? Surface level. And a lot of people live there until they can't live there.
Now, shout out to Sydney Charles. He writes, really appreciate it.
But then a time comes when she's in her 40s, or he's certainly.
And sometimes I agree earlier on, ladies may communicate certain things and sometimes they're not done, they're not followed up on. And then she goes through a season of what a lot of men kind of describe as like silent planning, where she's making plans, she's moving money around, she's making arrangements, she's letting family and friends know what she's going to do, and the only person that's in the dark is him. And I'm realizing now in hindsight what you're saying is correct. It is the communication to a degree, but when people start to check out, they, in my mind, I actually think they stop trying to communicate. They stop trying to. Once you're mentally checked out, you don't even care anymore about the other person getting it or fixing
it. That's communication in itself, is it not? The non-verbals. So if a woman has checked out, and if she's not, perhaps, in the infancy of your relationship, she'd greet you at the door, right? Because she comes home earlier or whatever it is, and she greets you with a kiss, and those kisses are not there. Or, she makes dinner and there's no conversation at all. These are non-verbal cues that she's giving you. So it doesn't have to be something that you hear. It's something also that you see in her body language.
Right? I don't fucking know what you're thinking. I'm not a moderator.
That's not something to figure out. These are just red flags. These are just things that you need to be cautious of. She doesn't open up. Instead of her communicating her issues, she shuts down. You're sleeping with her. Don't even really seem like she's present or into it. A man might even have reason to think that she's cheating with another guy, if that's what he's saying. But she's just like, no, you need to figure out a way to communicate with her. You need to figure out a way to talk through it.
That's stupid.
Touch, and she's not interested. Right? Well, this all speaks to a man's ability to emotional intelligence.
So the man's emotional intelligence comes into question if he can't read a woman's mind. No. And I think that men need emotional intelligence during relationships, but I think that what you're saying right now is stupid, and you're trying to let women off the hook for sometimes just being impossible.
And being able to determine what he is feeling as a result of what she is doing. So what men typically tend to do is like, oh, it's all right. Anyway, and they throw themselves into work because from a logical perspective, it's much easier to have to deal with these emotions that these women have. Because from a logical perspective, you get the job done and you get your compensation, remuneration, and it's amazing. But when you come home, no, this is too much. And then there's a disconnect. So in marriages, to that the gentleman that just said that he's going through something, there's incredible loneliness. And the definition of loneliness is the absence of connection. So men and women are very lonely in their marriage.
Yeah.
And there are individuals that I work with who have not had sex in a relationship for 10 years.
I beg your pardon?
Now, do you think that that's one of your case studies where the woman is just holding out on the guy and he's supposed to just figure out why she shut him out for almost a decade? Or is she wrong for deciding to close the box up for business for however long amount of time until the marriage eventually dissolves? Who's in the wrong? Because I got a feeling somebody like you would say that we should all look deeper into the situation and see how bad the guy upset her for her to hold out for 10 years without giving him any. Because I know that it wasn't the guy sitting there like, oh yeah, I don't want to sleep with her, like I'm good. There are some situations where a woman's weight could change or whatever, but a guy isn't going to wait 10 years. I already know what that case study is about. Let's get back into it.
And and both have resigned to the fact we've got kids now. But then a time comes when she's in her 40s or he's certainly in his 40s. It's like, no, that's not the life I want. And that's when divorces happen typically.
Yeah, so BC, he's been more attractive or less. To us, it's more about whether I can afford certain things or not, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm less attracted to you or I love you more or love you less based off of anything necessarily in terms of what you're bringing to the table financially. Now, with that said, I think a lot of men are paying much more attention to your mindset in terms of money, in terms of what you want to spend, more so than what you're bringing in. Because if you're bringing in a whole bunch of money, but you're spending a whole bunch of money, what does that have to do with me? I can't tell you the amount of ladies that'll make that whole his money is our money, my money is my money, meaning her money is her money.
What the hell you
that
mean,
again, that's just not a factor, I think, for a lot of men. So I understand that. And the second one, in terms of like a high value woman, it's always hard to me to kind of know how ladies are scaling it, because I think a lot of times it almost comes off like they're basing it on their own personal values.
The definition is different depending on who you speak to or what woman you're talking to at the time, because the shit doesn't exist. There is no such thing as a high value woman. This is, again, just progressive women and their ideas that try to move them closer to being equal to men, which does not make them more attractive women. It makes them less attractive women.
And realizing like one way to kind of be more objective about it is to view it through the lens of a store that has certain products on the shelf. If you have a store, you're a store owner, and you have products on the shelf, and you barely got any customers, stuff is sitting on the shelf for months, years, and there's a store across the street, and they're having packed, there's packed. People are buying stuff. Stuff is not sitting on the shelf more than a day. The store owner, that's the first store owner, where nothing's really coming off the shelf, no one's buying it. That's like the dating market where I think a lot of women are saying to themselves that they're high value and that they're this and they're that. I think we're conflating intrinsic value as a human being with dating market value in terms of the results that would reflect that. In the dating market, being high value only can manifest for both sexes in a couple different ways to me. If you are considered a high value man, if no women were pursuing you, if you couldn't get access to women and you couldn't get the outcomes that you wanted from women, I wouldn't consider you a high value man personally. Now you should have at least the options, and you can make poor decisions with those options. that's a person what I would consider high value in terms of what the market dictates. If the women see value in you, they'll go on dates with you. They'll respond to you. They'll laugh at your corny jokes. That's in a dating market dealing with women, that makes sense to me. Ladies, when it comes to this discussion with men, it seems like they like to sever a lot of the parts that come with men and men's responses and whether or not they're getting relationships and whether or not, like, for instance, going out on dates with a man as a woman doesn't change anything in terms of whether or not she's high value or not in our eyes, because most women are still considered attractive to some degree, and there's a smaller percentage of men that most women find attractive to men. So her getting compliments or her going out on dates with men doesn't really mean much in terms of high value. A lot of it's, to me anyway, kind of based on what's your outcomes, what's the evidence that you're high value. And it's like, if you're kind of sitting on a shelf, if you're not, if you're sitting on the shelf, nobody's taking it off the shelf, everybody's going to other stores, you don't lie to yourself and say, well, the blame is really the customers. No, maybe the price tag that you have under that thing is a little higher than.
Shouts out to Jeff. What a great way to bring that point home. And I don't think she's going to listen. I don't think she's going to respond well. Or maybe she will. But either way, a lot of women collectively just don't understand what this man just was trying to put down right there. What you guys are putting out there is different than what you guys are actually doing in the dating market.
What do you think about my definition? Getting compliments or her going out on dates with men doesn't really mean much in terms of high value. A lot of it's, to me anyway, kind of based on what's your outcomes, what's the evidence that you're high value. And it's like, if you're kind of sitting on a shelf, if you're not, if you're sitting on the shelf,
if something is just on the shelf for decade after decade, no value accumulating whatsoever, again, how in the world can you say that that's a valuable product? And the price tag has been visible to the men in the dating market for as long as it's been sitting there, and no man want to pay the price. And of course, women blame the dating market and then say that men are the ones who are being adversarial in these conversations.
Shelf, everybody's going to other stores. You don't lie to yourself and say, well, the blame is really the customers. No, maybe the price tag that you have under that thing is a little higher than, and maybe you've overestimated what you think the value is for.
He's loose. All right. Tony, back to you, pal.
What do you think about my definition, and like pick it apart?
I quite like that definition, but I would say sometimes it's like going into Chanel and going into Target. Right? If you have a lot of people going into Target, it's because it's affordable and it's something that you can get quite easily. Now, you might look at the Chanel store and you might go, wow, one day. But when that one day comes, then you'll take it off the top shelf. And I think there's two ways of looking at it. Sometimes you can kind of regard yourself in such high regard because your ego is so high. Look at me, I'm amazing. Right? And sometimes it's like, I am amazing and I'm not going to settle for someone who doesn't align with what I want. And I think to the point of, men don't look at women's salaries or women's qualifications. I think there's a lot of merit and truth in that, because men are looking to be, they don't want to be dominated by a woman in a relationship, right? Right, and it's not from a monetary perspective. It's more like what they're looking for is a little bit of softness. Let's call a spade a spade. Men are looking for softness. They don't want a hard alpha masculine woman in a relationship.
More than we're looking for softness, we're looking for cooperation. The cooperation doesn't have to be necessarily gentle. You just need to cooperate. You just need to be on the same page as us. There are a lot of women who you speak really gentle and soft, but your mind frame is still masculine. You still think you're better than men. You still don't really listen to men. So it doesn't really matter that your temperament is gentle and the way that you speak is really soft and light and womanly, still masculine.
They're fighting the fight outside of the relationship, working you know, hustling, whatever it is. And the last thing they want to do is come home to someone who has that male persona and aggression.
Okay.
Right? So that's one thing. And I think also from a woman's perspective, men who go on multiple dates and then are just dating for the sake of dating, that can really jar a woman. Because sometimes, for the most part, women are just looking to find that person. So again, I think it goes down to actually listing down what it is that you are bringing to the table. And I think it's about the value exchange. Okay, men want to feel appreciated. Women want to be looked after and taken care of. And I'm not talking about, you need to pick her up in a car. It's just that she needs to feel secure so that she can come into her feminine. So that she goes into this relationship where she doesn't have to think because she's been thinking.
See, the issue with modern women today is they think that femininity is something like a mode you get into. Instead of looking at it as a set of rules, principles, and ideas and belief systems, they think that it's like an attitude shift that happens when you're just around a guy who's so gallant. This is what guys who are good at this conversation call conditional femininity, and that's what she's describing right now. Let's go ahead and finish the clip.
Firefighting all day, and he just envelopes her and goes, "I've got you," and she does the same. So I use this analogy. So when a man comes home to his woman, he has been fighting. He's so tired. He just wants to lay his head on her lap. Right? And she is soothing him, and he's vulnerable, and he's talking, and she's hearing him and sharing and nurturing and making him feel whole again. It's all about wholesomeness. And by doing that, he also allows her to step into her full femininity of loving, caring, and alike. And when that happens, he feels like she can put on his Superman cape. Right? So she keeps him so he can fly and protect her. And she can also fly for the feminists out there. Right? So it's like a...
Well, ma'am, hold on, wait a second, because we're not waiting on you to do anything. A lot of times when we meet you on the first date, we're ready to protect you with our lives because that's just what we know we're supposed to do. What guys are trying to figure out is, what are you supposed to do just because you're a woman? Because it's always an argument.
Process. So she's flying beside him, in front of him. It doesn't really matter, but together they are a superpower. And that is the gold standard of any relationship from a professional and personal perspective.
Sorry, I'm getting this crazy echo. I agree, especially with that end part for sure. I think one way to scale it that probably will help people, and I actually loved your rebuttal about we got to establish what the two stores are and what they're offering, because the store that's higher quality is going to have less people having access to it, right? So that does make sense to a degree. Oh, like 90% to the degree. I think the last piece is time. And I think this is probably the biggest struggle for a lot of men and women, is to understand where they are in terms of where they are in life and how that's related to the whole high value thing. 18-year-old, 20-year-old male, how, if he's not rich, if he's not famous, if he's not an athlete, if he's not some high profile kid or trust fund kid, he's 21, his value in the dating market is almost as low as it can possibly be for most women in culture, right?
I'm going to be controversial here, Jeff. I don't think 21-year-olds should be dating. They should be having fun.
I just think you should have as much fun as you want. At 21, you shouldn't even be dating at all. That's what she said. Let's get back into the clip.
With the intention to get married, because our brains mature at age 28, 29.
So you're saying this for both men and women? Men
and women. It is, women want to feel connected. They want to be with someone. But I'm going to be controversial here. I think in your 20s, it's about dating and finding out what kind of person you like and who you are, because you're developing.
This is terrible advice. To tell women that they should wait until their 30s to start having kids or to start taking men serious is awful advice because their value is lower than it'll ever be at that point. They're at where Mr. Samuels would call the danger zone. They're approaching the wall, whatever you want to call it. For a man to wait until he's 40, that might be one of the best decisions he could ever make in his life. But for a woman to wait until she's 30 or 40 could be destructive. And if you're a therapist who is good at your job, I would think that you would know that. This is very reminiscent of a lot of advice I hear black women get from their mothers in the black community. They're told to focus on their career because N-words ain't shit. So focus on your career, focus on college, and then focus on a man later on in the back end after you have a career and so on and so forth. But that's only because every guy that they chose did them wrong and it didn't work out. So now they're looking at young girls and giving them destructive ideas about men that they've never seen work in real time. Where have we seen women put men off until the back end of their life and it actually end up being fruitful for them? Yet there are professional women promoting this. There are women like Kendra G promoting this. There are Christian people promoting this to black women. And I think it's all destructive. And I think that it's all almost like a intentional sabotage of Western women, but of course, in particular, black women. Hit the subscribe button, also hit the notification bell to be notified every single time we post content like this. I'll see you guys on the next one.